Welcome back to FCC Knows Mental Health. Welcome back to FCC Knows Mental Health. I'm your host, Alexandria, and these are my two co-hosts, Kelly and Shakira. Today, we'll be bringing topics to you guys such as bullying prevention, pregnancy and infant loss, or SIDS, and also touching on ADHD.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about infant death and pregnancy loss. Those are some pretty heavy topics, so we wanted to offer some resources as well as some education today. So some common and leading causes of infant death are congenital defects, preterm birth and low birth weight, SIDS, so sudden infant death syndrome, and I'm going to be touching on that a little bit more. Pregnancy complications, infant accidents, so suffocation primarily affects babies under 1 and actually accounts for 2/3 of all infant injury deaths. And drowning is also very high up on that list as well. So some facts about SIDS. Sudden infant death syndrome is a sudden and silent medical disorder that can happen to an infant who seems healthy. So it can affect anybody, it can touch anyone's life. About 1,360 babies died of SIDS in 2017. And then most SIDS deaths happen in babies between 1 month and 4 months of age. And then the majority of SIDS deaths happen before a baby reaches 6 months of age. And it actually says slightly more boys die of SIDS than girls. So this is something that can be very unexpected in a family, being affected by SIDS and a loss of pregnancy or even carrying a child to term and then losing that child. It can be very devastating for the family. So we wanted to offer some resources both nationwide and in our state of Georgia. So we'll put the link down below in the description as well. But there are online chat groups, there's online support groups, both open and closed. So those closed groups, you would have to be accepted in the group and go through, a certain 6 or 8 week process. So we have resources in Atlanta, Cumming, Georgia, Gainesville, Georgia, Lawrenceville, Snellville, and then some other places in Columbus as well. But the important thing to know is that you're not alone and that there's always resources and help and assistance in your town. Reach out to your local nonprofit mental health center and speak to them more about that information.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly, for those pregnancy loss resources as well as the information concerning SIDS, which is very common within our community. It is more often than we would actually think about it, and it's important to get that information out there, especially with those mothers who are dealing with the loss of a child, to have those support groups and to have those resources that they can rely on and have those people that they can talk to, because this is very detrimental and emotionally it can have a huge impact on one. So yes, thank you again, Kelly.
Yep.
So now we'll talk about ADHD, still pertaining to children, and exactly what is ADHD. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It is a disorder that affects a person's ability to pay attention and control impulsive behaviors. Inattention, and then you also have hyperactivity, impulsivity. In the category of inattention, it has difficulty staying focused on activities. Now, these are just some symptoms or some signs of one who may have ADD or ADHD. They're forgetful of tasks like homework. For adults, it can be paying the bills, things of that nature. Misses small details or makes careless mistakes. Avoids mentally demanding tasks, things that requires more thinking that one is able to do at the moment, and it can become overwhelming. And in kids, it can show out in an act of aggression or an act of just doing something just to get that pressure off of them. So it can be seen in a multitude of ways. May seem to not listen when spoken to. You're speaking to your child, or you're speaking to someone, and it seems as if they're not listening, but they really are. But when it comes to zoning in their attention and focusing for long periods of time, it is quite difficult for them to do that, especially when it comes to having serious conversations. And often loses things, like especially as adults, we often misplace our wallets or our keys or our phones or money in general, but not the normal type of losing things, but it's a constant thing and it doesn't stop. But it's not in every now and then, but it's in almost every day. You're always losing something. And then you have hyperactivity, impulsivity symptoms or signs. It's constantly moving or on the go, like your child may not be able to sit still, or for an adult, they're pacing back and forth. Some of them talk with their hands a lot, like things are just constantly going, like they're not in a state of rest. Has difficulty sitting still, excessively talkative, often fidgets, taps fingers, or squirms. Has difficulty with quiet tasks, like they have to be noisy, or there has to be noise or background noise of some sort. Like say for instance, when it comes to silence, they're making like loud outbursts or something just to fill that silence, because to them silence is too quiet and they need to have something going on. Often speaks out of turn or interrupts, and this is another common behavior that we may see, and it may look as if the child is being disrespectful or if the child is being rude, but really if it's a constant thing, even after being warned 1 or 2 times, then it's a question of, okay, what's really going on? They can't learn or get the concept of it's rude to interrupt or speak out of turn. What does ADHD really look like? In childhood like I said earlier, it can be seen as bad behavior. But children with ADHD struggle to pay attention during school, and they frequently get in trouble for talking or getting out of their chairs. Oftentimes, even peers become frustrated by these behaviors, which leads to isolation. In adults, ADHD can damage careers, relationships, as well as their self-esteem. Inattention symptoms can lead to forgotten responsibilities, poor organization, and difficulty completing tasks. Hyperactivity symptoms manifest as thrill-seeking or a high need for stimulation or impulsive decision-making. And usually some of these people can also be impulsive spenders as well. It's just something has to be done in that moment. In a moment of being paused can be overwhelming. And a lot of it has to do, especially with genetics, and ADHD is really hereditary, if anything. And some people incorrectly believe that ADHD is made up to serve as an excuse for poor behavior, which is not. However, we know that ADHD has a very real biological basis. For example, people with ADHD have structural differences in their brains, most notably in the areas that's responsible for impulse control. We also know that genetics play a role. A person is much more likely to develop ADHD if their parents have the disorder. Some environmental factors also play a role, but a lesser extent than heredity. There are treatments. You have medication as well as psychotherapy or going into counseling. Therapy for ADHD typically focuses on identifying strengths and weaknesses, skill building, and education about ways to reduce the intensity of the symptoms. So although there's no cure for it, it's tolerable, and you can help the person be able to manage their emotions, manage their impulses, and help them to recognize when it starts to become too much for them and what they can do to cope with these symptoms. And then there's also medication, but it's not a cure. It is an effective treatment that can help both children and adults with symptom management. The most common medications for ADHD are stimulants. Now, we have a few tips when it comes to parents dealing with their kids who have been diagnosed with ADHD. And one thing you can do is create a simple list of rules. Don't try to create a list of rules that's so exhaustive to the point where they intentionally start breaking the rules and they intentionally start doing the opposite just to help them feel better. Focus on the most important behaviors by creating a short and straightforward list of rules. Don't try to be too vague, but be descriptive in what they need to be doing at that time. Let the small stuff slide. If your child completes their homework and chores but forgets a dirty dish, focus on the accomplishment rather than the mistakes, because if you focus on the mistakes too much, then bigger mistakes are bound to happen, which leads to the parent being frustrated as well as the child. And if the child is already frustrated, it just makes things worse and it increases their anxiety and it doesn't help lessen it. Use praise. Praise your child for simple good behaviors that you would like them to continue. A simple good job or a smile can go a long way. If you're finding it hard to find a behavior to praise, compliment your child for extended periods where they do not get in trouble. Like they said, it's more of a give-take situation. You continuously give praises, and you try not to focus too much on the wrongdoings. The likelihood of that good behavior or that good thing that they are doing is to increase, and the less likely are they to break the rules that you may have set in the beginning. And of course, consistency and patience is a huge thing to exercise in this, especially when first starting off. It's not realistic to think your child is going to do a complete 180 or a complete recovery, or they'll just completely get it after one day. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes you also being consistent and being patient, not only with them, but being patient with yourself. Homework hour. Create a reward system first, then we'll go to homework hour. Rewards are more effective than punishments to motivate a child to change their behavior. Reward systems can be simple, as a token for each day of the week, specific for good behavior. If they do something good, give them a reward. Like, say for instance, if your child loves playing video games, like, okay, if you complete your homework in such and such amount of time, afterwards I'll let you play the game for such and such amount of time. Not only is the reward is offered, but it's something that's tailoring to what they like. And when you tailor it to something or what they like, they are more bound to do what you want them to do. It's not like how would you call it? It's not like you're bribing them, but it's just a simple, we're trying to increase the behavior you would like to see more often than the others. Homework hours. Set aside a time each school day for your child to complete homework. Having a system set up and having a structure set up for them to follow every day, but also conditioning them to the fact that, sometimes days are changed, but making it consistent that this is the day we'll do this. And a lot of times having that system and having that schedule for them after school helps them as well, and it helps decrease those anxious feelings, those impulsive decisions, speaking out of turn. All those things will decrease. Establish structure. Like I said before, structure helps with anything in life. So structure will really help a child or even adult who's been diagnosed with ADHD. If there's no structure, then things will be out of whack, and it will be hard for them to not only be able to follow what you're trying to tell them what to say, but it'll also be hard for them to follow anything because, there's no structure in place, and they're just going with whatever they're feeling in the moment. But really, their body is not set up to be conditioned to follow a certain thing. It's just whatever happens. And use consequences effectively. Consequences should be explained in advance. They should occur immediately after the unwanted behavior, and you must always follow through with your stated consequence. Sometimes, you'll see they're sad or something that'll pull out your heartstrings a little bit, but what we have to realize is we're trying to increase a behavior and decrease a behavior. Because if every time, you get onto them for something, or you give them an effective consequence, and then now you're turning back around, it's miscommunication going to the child at this point, and it's being able to show them like, hey, this is what I meant, you didn't follow this, and standing your ground on it. No matter which way it'll go, it helps set that system in the long run. So yeah.
Thank you for all that great information, Shakira, on ADHD, and thank you for touching on specific topics, whether it's with a child or adult, and stressing the fact that both children and adults can be diagnosed with ADHD, and they can be affected, in different ways, and it can be expressed differently with different age groups and things like that. And thank you for those tips as well for the parents who may need them. So yes, I guess the next topic is going to go to bullying prevention. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. More than 1 out of every 5 students report being bullied. National Bullying Prevention Month is a campaign founded in 2006 by Pacer's National Bullying Prevention Center. The campaign is held during the month of October and connects communities around the world to help prevent bullying. This past year, a worldwide pandemic and the growing movement for racial equality and social justice have highlighted the need to unite communities for a better future. It is important than ever to join together in creating a world that is kinder, more accepting, and more inclusive. Take action at the school, at home, in your neighborhood, at a local business, or in your local workplace to show that you care about kids being safe at school, online, and in the community. Everyone can share their voice to prevent bullying, whether you're a student, educator, parent, or community member. National Bullying Prevention Month is an opportunity to encourage the nation to take action at the local level to create safe and supportive schools, offer information and education about how everyone can prevent bullying, provide a platform to hold school and community events, share information about the issue through news media, social media, videos, and print publications, speak with education and public policy leaders about their roles in bullying prevention, promote dialogue between educators, parents, and students on their roles in addressing and preventing bullying, inviting organizations to share information about their bullying prevention resources, and inspiring everyone to promote kindness, acceptance, and inclusion to help prevent bullying. National Bullying Prevention Month is a time for everyone to unite. It is important to amplify the unified message that no one deserves to be bullied and all students deserve to feel safe and supported, and to inspire everyone to act with kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. Raise awareness. Talking about bullying prevention helps build understanding. All schools, organizations, and communities are encouraged to widely share and post information about how to prevent bullying in their communities. Learn. It is empowering to know what to do when you see or experience bullying. Everyone can access the free web-based resources that can be used by schools, parents, and students to better understand opportunities to prevent bullying. Educational opportunities include interactive websites, classroom toolkits, and contests. Take action. Actions have impact. Educators can access and share the free toolkits for student-led activities and downloadable posters and other visual displays, as well as bookmarks and other promotional items. Parents can visit Pacer's bullying prevention website with their children. Communities can participate in Unity Day, which is on October 20th, or run, walk, roll against bullying events. So here are some other important points on bullying. So bullying is a community-wide issue that must no longer be ignored or thought of as a rite of passage. Every child has the right to feel safe and supported. Every state has bullying prevention legislation, and most schools have bullying prevention policies. Bullying directly affects a student's ability to learn. Students who are bullied often do not want to go to school. They may find it difficult to concentrate, show a decline in grades, and lose self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-worth. Students who are bullied report more physical symptoms such as headaches or stomach aches and mental health issues such as depression or anxiety than other students. A focus on preventing bullying is important and is promoting positive actions such as kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. In some cases, bullying can lead to devastating consequences such as school shootings and suicide. Bullying affects witnesses as well as targets. Those who witness bullying often report feeling unsafe, helpless, and afraid that they will be the next target. Students who bully others can also be negatively affected by the behavior, with higher rates of physical and emotional health issues. Bullying is not only devastating while it is happening, research shows that the negative effects can last a lifetime. Students can be especially effective in bullying intervention. It is important for adults to encourage youth to be supportive of anyone experiencing bullying and to educate youth on how to advocate for themselves and for others. Silence is not an acceptable response to bullying. Ignoring it won't work. Everyone needs to be empowered with options for responding to bullying situations. Everyone's actions matter. We all have a role to play in bullying prevention. Our message to others is stronger when we are united by the common principle that bullying is never acceptable. All right. Well, that is all we have for our viewers today. And thank you for joining us for our latest episode of FCC Knows Mental Health. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.